If Dana White's known for one thing, it's probably being the UFC president. But if he's known for a second thing, it's having beef with lots of people. The guy's a beef magnet, and a lot of said beefs have been long-standing, but I think you'd be surprised.
I think you'd be surprised
to find out that quite a few of his more notable feuds ended up with everybody hugging it out metaphorically.
Or literally.
I'm Tommy from MMA On Point. A massive thank you to our channel Hall of Famers who make these types of videos possible. And these are 10 fighters who squashed major beefs with Dana White. Number 10, Colby Covington. Like most beefs, money was the big issue between Colby Covington and Dana White. After winning interim welterweight gold, Covington felt he deserved championship pay, but after a long layoff due to a surgery that saw him pass on an undisputed title challenge and stripped, Colby would be passed up for Kamaru Usman since the two parties couldn't come to terms. And that is when Covington freaked the fuck out and decided to live stream his issues with DFW.
We're gonna confront him. We're gonna say what he has to say. Dana, what's up, bro? How you doing? How you doing?
Barging in on his boss at a casino went about as well as you would think and didn't do anything to lower the tension.
I want an explanation, man.
Gambling. You too.
He didn't take the fight, and he can come up with a million excuses on why he didn't. He didn't take the fight.
This would eventually lead to Colby starting to talk about fighters' rights in interviews as he negotiated for his eventual Usman title challenge. Colby said, quote, "It's time for fighters to start talking about putting together a union." That is a real Colby Covington quote.
Filthy bastard!
But Chaos's communist turn would only last a few days because he would finally come to terms with the UFC for that title fight, and that was all he ever really wanted. He has since been a poster boy for the promotion, earning 2 more title challenges off wins over Tyron Woodley and Jorge Masvidal. Speaking of Tyron Woodley, number 9, Tyron Woodley.
Who saw that coming? I did.
From the very start of their relationship, Tyron Woodley and Dana White were never quite what they wanted each other to be. White wanted a star attraction champion who could finish fights, and Tyron wanted to be better promoted.
I'm by far the worst treated champion in the history of the UFC. Blatantly facts.
White would call Woodley a drama queen over the comments, and the two would have a very vocal back and forth contentious relationship throughout Tyron's controversial title reign.
I'm owed a public apology. Dana White, you need to be a man. You owe me a public apology.
Controversial in that a lot of his fights were boring.
People don't want to watch you fight, and that's how you make a living. It's not good if people don't want to watch you fight.
In the end, Woodley would drop the strap to Kamaru Usman before burning through the remainder of his contracted bouts to pursue, well, Jake Paul. His exit 3 years ago seems like a lifetime now, and it appears time heals all wounds.
I'm thankful for the UFC. I don't have no problems with them. I talked to Dana a couple months ago. I ain't got no issues with them. I did what I needed to do.
Number 8, Ben Askren. In 2013, the popular hardcore fan answer to who is the best fighter outside the UFC was Bellator's Ben Askren, the uncrowned king of welterweight, the man who could maybe beat GSP, but it seemed his long-standing beef with Dana White would never allow it. The UFC president famously said in a now-deleted tweet, "When Ambien can't sleep, it takes Ben Askren, the most boring fighter in MMA history. I would rather watch flies fuck."
I don't know, maybe that's just a shade, unnecessarily cruel.
The two would be at odds over just about any topic you can think of, and with as talkative as the two are, they provided plenty of headline fodder over the years. But in 2018, the UFC gave up Demetrius Johnson to acquire Askren from one championship for some reason, and just like that, the guy was in the UFC. And while Funky Ben would play up their previous animosity towards each other for laughs during his tenure with the promotion, Dana made it clear that he was fine with Askren.
I'm the one that wanted to bring Ben Askren into the UFC. I made this decision. He's here. We're cool. I'm cool anyway, I'm sure.
While I'm sure these two aren't sending each other Christmas cards, compared to a decade ago, this beef is entirely dead. Number 7, Ken Shamrock. A vital part of the UFC's history both in the beginning and during the early Zuffa era, Ken Shamrock left on a very bitter note after retiring with a single fight left on his contract, one he demanded be fulfilled after he started having financial troubles. But the UFC would deny Shamrock and he would sue the promotion, a process that would take 3 years and see him not only lose, but be forced to pay the UFC's lawyers' fees to the tune of $175,000, an amount, as you would guess, he couldn't afford. When Ken made a public statement about the situation, White pulled 0 punches.
Ken Shamrock owes me $175,000. And I'm coming for it, Ken. I'm coming for the fucking money, you piece of shit.
Now, you would think after seeing that, it would be impossible to come back from a situation like this. But less than a year after White looked into that camera, it was reported by TMZ that the two parties had settled everything over a 45-minute phone call.
You know, it just felt like it was time to just bury it and start trying to work in a positive direction and not a negative direction.
White said, quote, "It's bigger than us. It's good for the UFC. It's good for the fans. A shockingly wholesome ending to an ugly feud with one of the promotion's most important early stars. Number 6. Floyd Mayweather. If you learn anything from this entry, or really this list at all, it should be that money solves all problems, and it creates them as well. Dana White and Floyd Mayweather have a long history, and the vast majority of it is contentious, although it didn't start that way. Prior to the UFC, White hung around the Mayweather camp trying to get into the boxing business.
I remember Dana White, I remember you used to carry my bags. I remember Dana White, I showed you love.
But that was short-lived, and White would go on to be UFC president. From there, the two would naturally clash as the promotion started taking a bit of boxing's hold on combat sports in the US, prompting Mayweather to take digs at mixed martial arts when he could.
Mixed martial art is for beer drinkers. Boxing is for everybody.
And Dana to take shots at Floyd.
You said Manny Pacquiao should go make some sushi somewhere. Sushi's from Japan. He's from the Philippines, dummy. Shut up and make the fight, Floyd.
The banter would heat up again when McGregor and Mayweather were taking shots at each other prior to signing up for their massive fight. But once they did, oh how things changed.
Dana, I can never disrespect you. No matter what I said about you in the past, as a man, I look in your face and apologize and tell you I'm sorry, but you've done a hell of a job with this company.
White was since critical of his bout with Logan Paul, but I'm sure another big payday could right that ship fully again. Number 5, Nate Diaz. The beef between Nate Diaz and Dana White is a story better told by my in-depth video chronicling the entire history of their issues. But the long and short of it was, Nate was very unhappy for a very long time, as he'd been locked into an abysmal 8-fight contract prior to his lightweight title challenge in 2012 that would see him making 20-20 up to the McGregor fight, with White at nearly every turn claiming Nate was difficult and not a star.
Nate Diaz is not a needle. I love Nate Diaz. If Nate Diaz was the guy, we'd work it out in a minute. His number, he doesn't pull the numbers in.
The first fight with Conor would earn Diaz $500K, but negotiations after he won would be a bit more difficult. Despite the tension, the two parties would get a deal done and celebrate by posting that video of Nate slapping Dana, because this sport is weird and it's full of weird people. While they'd have back and forths over the rest of his tenure, the biggest beef was behind them, and White had this to say as Nate left the promotion after fighting out his contract.
No matter what Nate does from here on out, I mean, the kid, this is his house. He's been here forever. You know, whatever he moves on to do, I wish him nothing but the best.
Number 4, Oscar De La Hoya? Yeah, I said that as a question because who saw this one coming? When boxing promoter Oscar De La Hoya dipped his toes into MMA in 2018, with a show headlined by former UFC stars Tito Ortiz and Chuck Liddell, Dana White went scorched earth on his former friend over negative comments he'd made about the UFC and White.
This is about this idiot coming on this show and lying.
Right.
He's a liar.
Yeah, the whole thing got super ugly, but over time appeared to cool, with De La Hoya sending an apology message in private to White, who had this to say about it.
I appreciate his apology. Get it? We're cool, but we're never gonna be that cool.
Sounds like it's about as good as it was going to get, right? Beef pretty much squashed. Well, a few months later, after Dana's DV incident, Oscar was back on the warpath, tweeting about the incident and mocking White. Surely there was no coming back from that, right? But what's this? Just 4 months ago, De La Hoya had this to say.
Look, I have no beef with him whatsoever. He's in the MMA world. I'm in boxing.
All right, so that's it. I think we can finally say this one has been put to rest.
But wait! There's more!
Ryan can fight, in the main event, and maybe I can do Dana on the co-main. We can go.
Have you seen him anywhere?
No, never.
No, never shook hands.
No.
Hey, what's a vicious cage fight among friends, huh? Number 3, Brendan Schaub. Here's a real hell freezes over entry, and maybe the thawing is only temporary, but given their history, it's amazing there's been any progress at all. What started with Schaub being one of the most vocal fighters opposed to the Reebok deal would go ugly places in his post-fight career as a comedian and media personality, when White, while commenting on a post by Israel Adesanya about Schaub, said the fighter's entire post-fight career is thanks to Joe Rogan. This got a lengthy reply by Brendan in his own post, where he buried White's whole career and implied at the end that Dana had an extramarital affair with someone Schaub had also been with. Yikes. The two would steer clear of each other after that, with rumors of their separation involving lawyers. That was until Schaub implied that Khamzat Chimaev was told to miss weight for UFC 279 so they could rearrange the card. White heard about this theory and found out it was from Brendan at the post-fight press conference.
That makes sense. Bye.
That dig prompted another lengthy reply from Schaub that I think was more brutal than their more infamous one, which takes us to UFC 300. As part of his victory lap after the event, White posted a video dunking on everyone who said the card wouldn't be any good, including random people on Reddit. But the first victim was Brendan Schaub. So a spicy 1,000-word IG reply incoming, right? Nope. Brendan took this one in stride, and Dana seemed pretty cool about that, even throwing in the hashtag respect. Wow. Schaub further elaborated on his podcast about how he feels about DFW these days.
You know, we've had our issues over the years, but it's all good, man. You know, it's all good.
Number 2, Chris Cyborg. Now, if you have followed this beef, you're probably thinking, wait, what? Last I heard, this whole thing ended bitterly. Well, as one of our awesome channel champions pointed out to us, maybe not so much. Things between White and Cyborg were really bitter and really ugly before she signed with the promotion in 2015.
She looked like Vanderlei Silva in a dress and heels. She did.
But after that, it seemed that things started getting better as her tenure went on. That was until the bitter ending, with Chris altering a video to make Dana look bad, and then the UFC frontman famously exclaiming,
"We're out of the Cyborg business."
Chris would go on to fight in Bellator, but 3 years later, during a press conference after DWTS, White revealed that the two had been in communication.
She actually texted me and wished me a happy birthday, you know, for my birthday. So I wish her the best in whatever she's doing. And it was nice of her to send me a birthday text, so.
You usually don't wish happy birthday to your mortal enemy. Definitely a surprising turn given how things ended, and maybe this means we could see Chris in the UFC again someday. Number 1, Tito Ortiz. Of all the people on this list, Tito is the only one who can say he's actually fought Dana White, as they threw down on a plane ride to Japan once. They were supposed to have a full-blown boxing match too, but Ortiz no-showed weigh-ins. Dana was Tito's manager a whole year prior to becoming UFC president, and so their relationship goes way back and runs very deep. Deep relationships mean deep hatred, despite the fact that Ortiz was the golden boy of that early Zuffa era. He and DFW would regularly clash over mostly money. Yeah, pretty much just money. What did I say earlier? Ortiz wanted more of it. Dana didn't want to give it to him. Pretty much 99% of their problems over the years can be distilled down to that. In 2018, prior to the cursed comeback fight he did against Chuck Liddell, Tito expressed regret for the long-standing rivalry with his former boss.
I think one regret, battling against Dana White the way I did. I wore a t-shirt that said Dana's my bitch on it. I probably should have never did that one, and I apologized to him many times.
That might be the most mature and coherent I've ever seen Tito. In return, just a few years ago, White confirmed that their beef is no longer active, and he did it in the most Dana versus Tito way possible.
Tito's just a really dumb human being. He's not intelligent at all. He's very, very fucking stupid. And I don't have any beef with Tito anymore. And Tito, I can know you're fucking stupid, Tito. You know you are, so.
That's love right there. Just the other day, in response to a viral video of Tito failing at a mic drop, White hilariously tweeted, "That's my boy." The fact that they're not actively trying to kill each other anymore easily makes this entry number 1. And my number 1 is the editor of this video, Max Randall. The man does a fantastic job. Please follow him on all his socials and go check out his awesome YouTube channel. A big ol' shout to our channel Hall of Famers. You keep the lights on, you make videos like this possible, you come up with cool suggestions, and in return you get awesome exclusive content. So if you'd like to be a channel champion too, I suggest you hit that join button. Like and subscribe if your long-standing beef with Dana is over as well, and comment down below which one of these you think is gonna flare up again one day. Thank you so much for watching, guys. I hope you have a great week.